Well, hello, friends. It is Mark and Danielle. Welcome to the Imago Nutrition Podcast, where we answer your questions and we give you practical nutrition strategies to help you and your family flourish. And today we are going to be talking about family. We're going to be talking about a topic that is pertinent for millions and millions and millions of people. And so if you are a parent, we're recording this at the end of August. And so if you are a parent with school-aged children, you are likely somewhere in the midst of back-to-school mayhem. And so getting readjusted to having the kiddos away during the day and what that means for your mornings and what that means for afternoons, and school sports are picking up and meals are being prepped differently, and all that sort of stuff is taking place. And so what we're going to talk about today is some nutritional considerations for back to school. And so the good news is you're not going to have to hear from me that much because I'm not the expert in this field. I am a dad of three, but I have a wife that does all the smart things for the kids. And Danielle is also a wife and mother that does the smart things for her kids. And she's our registered dietitian extraordinaire. And so I'm going to get to learn along with you all and maybe have some notes that I need to take back to work with my own kids or our process here at our household. And so anyways, Danielle, how are you? How are things up in the St. Louis area?
I'm good. We had our last pool weekend, so that was enjoyable. It was a little chilly, so I guess I'm ready for fall.
And that's the pool weekend in terms of like swim team, yeah?
No, just like neighborhood pool being open.
Did they close it down already?
Well, no, they close next weekend, but we're out of town, so.
Oh, okay. All right. Wow. Yeah. Maisie and I, my daughter, we were in the pool last night. We are going to squeeze every last ounce out of the pool season this year. So I don't know when we're going to close it, but it probably won't be too far from now. And that, of course, is signaling that fall is coming. So,
right.
And for a little bit of context, just remind folks, maybe folks don't know, your kids' situation and their ages. And I believe they're both back in school now, right?
Mine, yes. My oldest is in second grade, and my youngest just started kindergarten this year. So I had
Did you hear the little mom come out in your voice? I could hear it. Little quiver there.
I definitely had a change in my whole life here. So a big adjustment. But doing good because he was super excited to be with his big brother.
Yes. Yeah. Well, at our house, we've got a seventh grader. We've got a fifth grader. We've got a first grader. So we've got the middle school and then two in elementary school, and they're doing great. They love school, but we're all back to school in the swing of things. And so with that, real quick, before we get into the topic, if you're listening and you have a question, whether it's related to family nutrition or anything else, we'd love to hear from you. You can head over to imagonutrition.com. That's IMAGO, imagonutrition.com/podcast. And if you just scroll down that page a little bit, there's a form where you could submit a question and we will consider it for a topic of a future podcast episode. So with that, as we said, we're going to be talking back to school nutrition. I'm going to get a chance to sit back and just kind of ask maybe Danielle a couple questions or kind of work through a few agenda items, if you will, but I'm going to be learning along with you. So this is going to be a fun episode. And so all you parents, be sure to take notes and be sure to reach out to us. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us through our website, imagonutrition.com. You can just go to the contact form if you have any questions about anything we talk about today. You want to contextualize it to your individual situation. If you've got special considerations for your family, your kids, their health, anything like that, be sure to reach out and we would love to work with you. So with that, Danielle, I'm kind of a blank slate in this regard. And so I'm curious, just a couple strategies or considerations you want to give us to help as we begin to think about, again, back to school nutrition considerations for the kiddos.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I first want to just kind of talk about our mindset of that going back to school. I guess being in COVID, our school provided free lunches, I think for 2 whole years. So that was, different. And now you do have to pay for your school lunch. But I think just the mindset of school lunches is kind of what I wanted to start with. I think our mindset is they're not healthy, or not good foods. So the foods are offered that are processed or high in sugar or fat or what have you. But I just wanted to share, like, the USDA has a lot of specific guidelines for school lunch program. And I learned all of these back in school, so I don't know all the specifics of all of them, but I did refresh on a few of them. And so I just wanted to give you some information about the school food lunch program, because I think a lot of people don't know what is required. So the first thing that's required is they are required to offer fruit and veggies 2 separate meal components, which means they're not hiding the fruits and vegetables in the entree or a mixed dish. I love this because it's being honest with the kids. It's creating trust. So those picky eaters out there aren't finding pieces of broccoli in their noodles and being like, hey, that's not fair. I don't like this now. And now they're not eating all of the dish.
Right.
So not hiding the fruits and vegetables is really nice. Also, because you get to taste the fruit and vegetable. So maybe they don't like it. Maybe the next day they try a bite because they see their friends doing it. Peer pressure is a thing. I have a neighbor that she watched my kids eat carrots, and now she eats carrots. So that thing is real, to be able to experience the whole fruit or veggie by itself. And then once again, to not miss out on the whole meal just because fruits or vegetables are hidden in them.
Interesting.
So that's one thing I learned this morning. And then veggies are offered daily, and they do put a limit a little bit on the starchy ones. So they're not offering your kids only potatoes or only peas or corn. They do offer broccoli and those non-starchy vegetables. The starchy vegetables, I do think, get a bad rap. Yes, they're a little bit higher in calories, but growing kids do need a little bit more calories, especially if they're active. But they, starchy vegetables, you think about potatoes, sweet potatoes, squash, peas, they have a lot of fiber, and the peas and beans even have some protein too. So they offer beans and lentils or legumes are offered as well. So that's kind of nice. So these things, all those 3 things that I just mentioned, are increasing the fiber for your kids if they choose a school lunch. The third one is half of the grains need to be whole. So once again, that's increasing the fiber, helping them feel more full or more satisfied and lasting longer. I love this one. Protein is offered for breakfast. So a daily meat or meat alternative is offered for breakfast. I think adults struggle to get enough protein for breakfast. So the fact that they give protein for breakfast, and then they also offer fat-free or low-fat dairy products. So that's also giving you protein and calcium for their bones. So there's really a lot of good things about school lunches. So try your best to not talk down about school lunches. And I think, once again, I just don't think we are given this information. You can look it up. You can just Google USDA National School Lunch Program, and that lists out all the requirements. It is a lengthy document, so it's not super fun to go through that. So that's why I just wanted to give you some bullets this morning about what that looks like. There are specific calorie ranges for age and grade level. So that gives them a certain portion. They're served a certain portion. Additionally, they're reducing the sodium, and they're doing it gradually. So that's ideal. So they don't hate their food the next year. Yep. And they're using ingredients that contain 0 grams of trans fat. So that's those shelf-stable ingredients have those trans fat in the product, so they're not allowed to use those. So that's really awesome. Now, student choice obviously plays a role into that. Okay, so your child could still choose a slice of pizza with orange juice, right? Not going to feel super full for very long with that choice. Or they could choose a slice of pizza. They have a side salad and an orange and a cup of milk. So you're going to feel way more satisfied with that. So I just encourage you to talk to your kids at home, and not using the words good, bad, healthy, and unhealthy. Get rid of all those words. I know Mark and I talk about that all the time.
Amen.
But yeah, good, bad, healthy, unhealthy puts a big stereotype or bad rap on the food. And it's really fun. Like sometimes your kids might come home from school, they learn something in health class and they're like, bread is healthy. They're rejoicing because, they're celebrating because they love bread. Well, I mean, what you can say is, yes, bread is a great source of energy, but what if we only ate bread? I got this from a dietitian that I follow, and it was just so good to, we're not saying bread is unhealthy to them. We're just saying, yes, bread is great, gives you lots of energy, jump up and down, run around in circles, but we also need other foods to help us feel full too. Mm-hmm. So I think talking to your kids about what foods help you feel full and what foods give you energy. So there's no good or bad there. These foods give you energy. These foods help you feel full. So helping them kind of pick out which, even when you're at home eating dinner together. So,
and just for clarification too, remembering just too for the parents that keep in mind when we talk about feeling full or high satiety or foods that produce, that sensation of being full, specifically from a nutrient perspective, fiber is really important. And so is protein for many different reasons. In terms of sometimes it's food volume relative to low energy or low calories. So there's volume that's included, fiber, protein, specifically, again, target and signal to the body that it's full. And it works through a complex set of processes that could be a fun episode down the road, but just suffice it to say, keep in mind that protein and that fiber are important for many, many reasons. One of which, to Danielle's point, is that feeling of satiation or feeling of fullness.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good to interrupt there. The carbs you can call as your energy foods, protein and fibers, those satisfying foods. And so I know it depends on like the area and where you live, on, how many kids are using the free lunch program. But just try to have if your kids say food lunch is bad, or another parent comes up to you and says, oh, can you believe what they're offering at school lunch? Try to watch your words because you're probably around your kids, and give the school lunch program, a thumbs up because they are trying hard. They're trying to get, can you imagine you're trying to get, I don't know how many kids are in a school, so many kids to like the food, to cut down on food waste. So they are trying their best. And if we do give our kids that idea that foods are bad, they can kind of see that their friends can see that, your child might have that perception. And then those children that really do need that lunch will skip their lunch and they actually won't get that good nutrition anywhere else. So that's the sad part. If we are knocking school lunches and our kids pick up on it. And then
can I ask you, Danielle? Because I've heard this too, and I guess I've never really thought about why the case is. I have one example. Like, I know there's like a classic internet meme going around of like, just a slab of looks like a disastrous piece of pizza and then like, a carton of milk or whatnot, or I forget what it was. There's just this like image out there that I've seen tossed around. And of course it's making fun of, school lunches. But again, like I went to public school my whole life, and having seen, for better or for worse, and in different states, by the way, 3 different states went to public school. And so school lunches, like, they were fine for me. And now I didn't know what I know about nutrition, and that's why we're talking through this and helping parents. But where do you think the stigma comes from? Is it purely just kind of some internet garbage graphics? Is it based in reality? I know some of it's geographic, right? Some schools are doing better perhaps than others, but where do you think some of the stigma comes from? Because I love what you're saying about, because as parents, we should be using these as learning opportunities and teaching moments with the kids. But where do you think some of that stigma comes from that we don't necessarily think is, appropriate? Yeah,
that's a great question. Because my kids right now think school lunch is awesome. They're like, when can we have school lunch? Because that means we can have pizza. And, you know, I say, you just let me know and I won't pack your lunch. You know, I do pack my kids' lunch every day, but that doesn't mean I, you know, won't let them have school lunch. So I give them that opportunity. Where that perception comes from, I think it's I'm just taking a stab at it.
Yeah, I just tossed a curveball at you, so I'm just going to put you on the spot. But
No,
that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, is it the internet? Like, is it just word of mouth gossip? Is it pretentious parents that think these kids should be like eating like, you know, their strict version of a diet, you know, in school? I'm just curious where we think it comes from.
I think it might come from like we're learning more about nutrition or people are caring more about nutrition. And, you know, maybe at home they're trying to cut back on added sugar and seeing that their fruit might, you know, the fruit that their child chooses might be a fruit cup instead of an orange or an apple or something like that, where there might be some light syrup in there. So, I mean, like the lunch school program is not perfect because once again, you need to have a wide variety of availability. Like I give my kids fruit cups. It doesn't have any syrup in it, but you know, they have those separate. Some schools have with light syrup. Some schools have with their own fruit juice. The problem that I personally experience is if you only use the fresh fruit, like kids lose their teeth and they can't chew. Like grandma's like, I don't want school lunch because they only give me an apple and I can't chew it. I'm like, oh gosh,
buddy.
Like why can't they slice those for you? They can't. They don't have enough time.
And Maisie, my youngest, just lost her first tooth, so it's very real for us that now her chewing is changing as she's starting to. You start to see her putting things off to the side of her mouth because it's like one right in the front and the bottom.
Yeah,
so it's very practical.
Yes. So I'm guessing that it's just parents thinking that they want better for their kids or their school. I know cost, like for school lunches, like, you know, school budgets might not be able to provide. And that's kind of what they're assuming, you know, that the food choices are lower because of the budget. So yeah, interesting. That's my best.
Well, I didn't mean to throw us off track. I was just kind of curious as you were talking through that. Because I'm like, because I feel like there's a stigma out there. I'm like, but I don't know why. So
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Well, all we can do as parents is try our best with that. The dietitian that I follow, she put out a stat of 1 in 6 kids are food insecure, which is, you know, on average, I guess, across the nation, but. So
wow, and we know that could be the start of a trajectory in life, right? And so we deal with a lot of adults later in life that you know are definitely struggling, and then after school, and you get out into the real world and you start getting bombarded with diet culture that starts to make you insecure about whatever the latest diet is. You know, so are we anti-carb this month? Are we anti-fat this month? Are we anti-protein? What are we anti this month? And so. It's fascinating to think just where does this insecurity start? And 1 in 6 is a pretty big number. And I think I don't know. I don't have a stat off the top of my head, but I think that likely increases with age. It doesn't go away. So if we can head that off, I think we can set a better trajectory for the kids long term.
Yeah. And so like when a child is like food insecure, they don't have enough, you know, their parents might not have enough money for food at home, but like it can just trickle effect. You're not learning as well in school. You're not succeeding as much in school because you're not giving your brain any nutrients. So
the insecure is more about availability to the food, or is it more about their thoughts about the food? Okay, I got you.
Yeah,
so the
sorry.
stats probably
food
more
availability.
Relative. Availability. No worries. That was my, okay. Well, we covered insecurity on the way.
There you go.
It's proof. We don't comb through our notes or tell each other our answers ahead of time. So.
There we go. Okay. So the next thing like we can talk about is just like in the chaos, like you mentioned in the beginning of starting the new routine of packing lunches and things like that. I have a lot of adults that will pack their kids lunch, they'll make their kids breakfast, and then they won't eat breakfast or lunch. So just remembering to take care of yourself. I love that like plain analogy. You got to put your mask on first before assisting others. So if you're not feeding your brain, once again, you're not succeeding or functioning as well as you should.
Right. Which sometimes can be like, it can seem like the antithesis of parenting, right? Because we tend to think that like we think of kids first. I also sometimes think about like, I was never a lifeguard, but I took a lifeguard class, I think, when I was younger. I remember one of the things that shocked me was them saying that as a lifeguard, you need to protect your life first. And I remember thinking, wait a minute, no, they go and they save other people, right? And as parents, you're like, no, you go serve them. But if the guard drowns, everyone drowns, right? And so in that, I mean, that's a little bit of an extreme example, but hey, that's what I'm here for. But it's the same thing. I mean, parents, if you're drowning in this, if I could be frank, if you're a mess nutritionally, if you're a mess in terms of your sleep and your health, saving your kids is ultimately going to cause even more struggle. And so, yeah, I love that point. Sorry, I didn't want to get off on a tangent, but I love that good. Just in terms of leaning into the parents and reminding them to take care of themselves so that they can take care of others. Right.
For me, that looks like starting my day with exercise. So I'm a little less stressed in the morning with all the things that I have on my mind, the things I want to get done in the morning. Then
can I ask what you do just practically?
Oh,
what do you do?
My exercise?
Yeah.
I swim or I do a workout video. I'm really into
I've said this before.
Right now.
If you don't know why, they're like, why does he keep cutting her off? Because I want to brag about Danielle when she won't let me. So Danielle is a former D1 swimmer, absolute insane swimmer. And so that's what you love, right? Like you love that. And I think that's the thing too, is like finding what you love. So you wake up and it is relief. It's not burden, right? So if you love swimming, swim. If you love jogging, jog. If you love walking, walk. If you love lifting weights in the morning, lift weights, so that's a deep part of who you are. And so you love it. So that's not a burden to wake up. Oh, I got to go swim because someone told me I should exercise. It's something you love doing, right?
Yeah. Yes, I do. And I do love to run or jog because I'm slow, but I recently hurt my knee. So I'm a little bit sad about it. It stressed me out a little bit, but it's getting on the mend. I got some physical therapy. Going.
Luckily, you're married to a guy that knows a few things, right? So
yes, I definitely utilize that that knowledge.
So do I, and we're talking about my brother, of course. She's my sister-in-law, so we're talking about her husband, my brother Jared, who recently helped me with my shoulder issue because I had probably shoulder impingement or some sort of like tendonitis type thing in my shoulder, and so between the two of us, we're using Jared quite a bit these days. Shout out to Dr. Glesney.
There we go. Yeah. So, besides exercise in the morning, I do really like to pack lunches before bed. I feel like it's really stressful for me to try to feed them breakfast, pack lunch, and get them out the door on time. So I think that's a way to decrease stress. And one of the dietitians that I follow, she gave the idea of lunch packing stations. How cool would this be? I don't have an old enough child yet. It's recommended for grades 3rd and up. So 3rd grade and up, you have a pantry bin, you have a refrigerator bin, literally a basket or a bin that you just put random things in a freezer bin. And then you just kind of set them all out and say, go to work. And the kids are creating their masterpiece. So I love those school lunch boxes that like have those individual sections. That makes it really helpful for me. Like, okay, what's next? I need like a fruit, a veggie, whole grain, protein. And there's a little section for each of them. So
cool.
Some things that you could have in the pantry bin are those whole grain bread, bagels, tortillas, crackers, nuts, fruit cups, jerky. Like beef jerky or turkey jerky if they can chew that okay. Roasted chickpeas, dried fruit, pouches of tuna, chicken or salmon, and apples and bananas, or any of those fruits and vegetables that are on your counter. They don't need to be refrigerated. So tomatoes would kind of be there too. Refrigerator bin could be like your fruits and veggies in the refrigerator. So some like pre-cut veggies, deli meat and cheese, grapes or oranges, little cups of ranch, hummus, or guacamole, yogurt cups, hard-boiled eggs, or just like, those like little amounts of leftovers that you have. Just little containers of leftovers. Doesn't have to match. So
For sure.
that's kind of nice. I love utilizing leftovers. And then freezer bin, I haven't used much of the freezer when I pack lunches. So this was kind of from this other dietitian. She had frozen veggies, edamame, veggie burgers, like frozen burritos, and frozen ravioli or tortellini. So I guess they would defrost on time. I would think, like frozen burgers, I think you do have to heat up. So, I don't know if your kid's old enough to have access to a microwave, but besides that, I think like frozen broccoli, like that probably will defrost perfectly on time. So
yeah, true.
unless they're eating lunch at 10 a.m. But yeah, so
Cool.
Those were some of the ideas we had for you. Take care of yourself. Get creative. It doesn't have to match. Think about that protein, fiber, and carbs.
There it is.
There it is.
Very cool. Super practical. All right. Well, anything else on this topic that you want to touch on, or did we do it?
I think we did it. Nutrition.
I didn't do anything. You did it. Terrific. Very cool. Well, as we send you off, just a reminder, as I said at the beginning, if you have any questions about this, if you have listened to this, you're like, that's great, but I've got this thing, or any sort of individual considerations with your children. I was just talking with a family at church that was talking about, they've got three kids, and they were like, I think we're going to call Danielle pretty soon. And she kind of went through kind of the individual considerations with the kids. And so we know that, general guidance is certainly helpful. We hope that this is completely helpful. But if you've got any individual considerations, some family context, some questions, considerations, again, specific to you, your situation, your family, your nutritional needs, be sure to reach out. We'd love to work with you on this. Danielle will be your guide. And so head over to imagonutrition.com. You can just go to the contact link in our navigation, or you can just go to imagonutrition.com/contact. And that's a way to just use our website to send a note, say, hey, would love to jump on a call and discuss things further. And again, Danielle would be happy to work with you, if I can say so on your behalf, Danielle.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, with that, if this has been helpful, we'd be honored if wherever you're listening to this podcast or watching the video, if you're on YouTube, we'd be honored if you would subscribe so that you get notified about upcoming episodes. If you're on a podcast platform, would always love to hear from you. And so if you would leave a review and let us know how we're doing. And if this episode has been helpful and you think it would be helpful for some of your mom friends, some of your dad friends, some other parents in your neighborhood or at church that are dealing with back to school considerations and would benefit from this episode, we'd be honored if you share it with them. So with that, we would like to thank, as always, our theme song from the band Happy Pill. And the song is Thinkin Bout Food, because on the Imago Nutrition Podcast, we're always thinking about food.